So today I'd like to talk about property damage, and what I mean by that is damage to your vehicle after a crash. What's surprising to me is that the biggest thing people are concerned about initially after an accident, and in a lot of cases even more so than any injury at first, is their car. And I think that's because there's a lot of unknowns, like who's going to pay for the damage? What if it's totaled? What about a rental car? Or how am I going to get to work? So today I want to talk about property damage and try to answer some of those questions and also discuss the various options for dealing with property damage after a crash. So let's get started. Welcome back. I'm Jim Curtis. I'm an injury lawyer here in the Sunshine State of Florida, and I help people recover physically and financially after an accident. So you've been in an accident and your car's damaged, and maybe you just watched it get towed from the scene. So what's next? Well, there are several different ways you could go depending on the situation. So let's break this down by each of the different scenarios. Scenario number 1, you caused the accident. We're going to start with the easy one first. If you cause an accident and your car is damaged, or worse yet, it's totaled, you better hope that you purchase collision coverage with your car insurance policy. Collision coverage will cover you for any damage to your vehicle if it's involved in a collision with another object or vehicle, regardless of fault. So if the accident's your fault and your car is damaged, your only option is to file a claim with your own insurance company under your collision coverage to get it fixed or replaced. On the other hand, if you don't have collision coverage and you cause an accident, unfortunately, you'll have to come out of pocket for all your own repair costs, and there'll be no insurance money to help. Scenario number 2, the other driver caused the accident. When the other driver's at fault for your accident, and if that driver has property damage coverage, which is required in every state, and here in Florida, you have to have a minimum limit of $10,000 in property damage coverage, then you can file a claim with the at-fault driver's insurance, and they'll pay to have your car fixed up to the limit of that coverage. If the repairs cost more than the driver's limit of coverage, for example, let's say your repairs are $12,000 and the driver only has the minimum $10,000 limit, or if your car's a total loss and the value exceeds the limit of coverage, you can then turn to your own insurance if you have collision coverage. If you don't, your only other option would be to go after the other driver personally for any amount over and above the policy limit, and in most cases, that's probably not worth your time. Now, it's important to know that once the at-fault driver's insurance accepts liability for the accident, in other words, once they agree that it was their driver's fault and they either want to send someone out to look at the damage to your car or they want you to take it to a collision shop to get an estimate, then it's at this point that they will also provide you with a rental car, which you can use until your vehicle's repaired or until they've reimbursed you for your car. Sometimes, though, it can take a few days and, depending on the type of accident, potentially even longer for the insurance company to make that liability decision. So you may be without a vehicle during that time. However, if you have rental car coverage on your policy and you're in dire need of a car, then going with your own insurance for the rental car will be a whole lot faster. Now, if you do have collision coverage on your policy, you also have the option, even if the accident wasn't your fault, of going through your own insurance company to get your car repaired. The benefit of doing it this way, rather than going through the other driver's insurance, is that it'll likely be faster for you to get your car fixed because you won't have to wait for the insurance company to make that liability decision, which sometimes can take a while. However, the downside to doing it this way is that you will have to pay your deductible, which is typically $500 to $1,000, and it'll just be subtracted off whatever the insurance company pays, although you'll get that money back from your insurance company once they get their money back from the other driver's insurance. Because you can bet that when they pay you for something that is someone else's fault, they will be going after that driver's insurance to get paid back. Scenario number 3, the other driver caused the accident and doesn't have property damage coverage. Unfortunately, this scenario comes up far too often. Despite the fact that Florida and all other states for that matter require a minimum of property damage coverage, there are still people driving around without insurance. In fact, statistics show, at least here in Florida, that almost 30% of drivers on the road don't have any insurance. So if you get in an accident with someone who doesn't have insurance and the accident was their fault, you only have two potential options. Option number one, if you purchased collision coverage with your car insurance policy, then you can make a claim with your own insurance company for the damage. In this situation, you'll only get a rental car if you also purchased rental car coverage. Or there's option number two. If you didn't purchase collision coverage, your only option would be to pay for the repairs yourself and then sue the other driver personally to try to get your money back. In my experience though, suing the other driver will likely be a waste of your time, because if they had any money or assets, they probably would have had insurance. So really, if you don't have collision coverage in this scenario, you're kinda sorta out of luck. And finally, scenario number 4, the other driver caused the accident and there are other vehicles that were also damaged in the crash. In this situation, when there are multiple vehicles that have been damaged, if the at-fault driver doesn't have property damage coverage, then everyone is out of luck, unless everyone had their own collision coverage. However, if there is property damage coverage, the at-fault driver's policy will need to be dispersed to each of the parties involved, and this will be done on a pro rata basis. Let me give you an example. Let's assume that there were 3 cars involved that were damaged in the crash, one being yours. And let's also assume that the estimates for the damage to each of the cars combined totals $24,000. Now, if the at-fault driver only has the minimum $10,000 limit in property damage coverage, the policy will be divided amongst the parties like this. You first take your repair cost and divide by the combined total for each of the 3 cars. That'll give you your percentage rate, which you then multiply by the $10,000 policy limit, and that will give you your pro rata share of the policy. You then do that for each of the other vehicles involved, and that is how the $10,000 policy will be divided amongst the 3 parties. For anything else, there's nothing left and nothing anyone can do if you don't have collision coverage or you don't want to go through your own insurance company. To sum it all up, I can't stress to you just how important it is to have collision coverage given the number of uninsured drivers on the road and the minimum state requirements for property damage coverage. Although nobody has a crystal ball and can tell you if or when you might be in an accident and need it, you can protect yourself and your investment, because that's really what your car is given how expensive they are nowadays, by simply spending the extra few dollars a month that it costs, and more importantly, you'll have that peace of mind knowing that you're covered regardless of the situation. If you liked this video and found it helpful, be sure to subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos for even more great tips and information.